Yes, yes, I can hear you. Thank you all for coming. I cannot see you very well, and I'll try to. I am happy to be with you.
You are credited as the co-writer and the editor of the film. And I was wondering if you can talk to us a bit about how your role shifted from just being an editor to a co-writer, and how was it working with Lina and another writer as well, and how
Yes, Nadine.
Nadina,
Yes.
right?
Um, yes. So Nadine and Lina started. In fact, Lina started thinking of the film. Then she started to write with Nadine, and then very quickly they sent me. They sent me versions, and I used to feedback. You can hear me?
Yes, we can
Yes.
hear you perfectly well.
And I used to give feedback, and so we used to discuss, because in fact Lina and Nadine wrote before Lina went shooting. So yes, I can see you. um, so we worked together with Lina. We already did another film before, and she has started it by herself, and then I came on board, and it's basically we do sessions of writing, editing, and thinking until the shoot is finished. And then we rewrite during the edit, of course, and we shot as well during the edit. So it's a continuous rewriting process till we get to something that we like, and what you have seen. And then we wrote the voiceover, Lina's voiceover, as well during the editing.
Mhm. And was there, like, for example, a specific scene that you pushed to shoot it, like as a rewrite, for example?
Yes. Actually, during the edit, we decided to shoot the text that Nina have written about the stories to her, about her grandmother and her late grandmother and her mother. And she starts by making Hiam, her mother, read her text that she has written. And this was shot in Paris while we were editing. We decided that we needed this to exist, to make a, because if you want the film, I mean, the challenge of this film is to be able to write a storyline that is continuous, because the origin of all these pieces, all this story is fragmented and made by pieces. So the issue, I mean, the challenge for me during the edit is how to make something made from different eras, different people, different stories, in such a way that it can make a one arc, and so we rewrite the story in a linear way, and we give it its give it its dimension, its real dimension, because it's a story that has been hidden and forgotten, or made in a way that you cannot tell it. Everything is made for us not to be able to tell the story. I mean, even when you look for archival footage, it's very hard to find. When you want to tell a story, then you are missing something, and then so we had to think of how, and you see that we go from one place to another and within the archival footage. So this was the real challenge, is to try and create something that is more about this how do you say, imaginary world, imaginary space and territory of Palestine.
And it's kind of a form of archiving memory as well, like using the archives to archive the memory of Lina herself and her, like, family.
Yes.
Because there is even the line about archiving memory, and the use of archive in this film. And this is something that probably a lot of audience have seen throughout other films, that there is such importance to archives. And one of those footage, for example, that I haven't been seen before was from 1940, and it was so good. How did you find that?
This is Lina's research. She has been searching so much, so long. It's been very hard to find these footage, but once we found them, then we were like, so Lina looked a lot for a long time. I think it was from British Pate.
Mhm.
And so, yes, Lina used to bring so many Russia's footage of archival footage, and then until we found what we needed, what we wanted, what we want to tell, how are we going to use the archival footage. But we wanted to use it in a way that it is real history. I mean, for instance, when she found the 1940 footage, we didn't know where to put it. But for me, it was a decision. We have to put it because this is the only, how do you say, trace of this land being inhabited with the voices, with the people, with all of it. So it was like something it became a treasure in a way.
Does anybody have any question? We can turn to the audience for a moment, and then I can also. We can have Andrew and Michael books, so we can read them and can go to. But I can talk still about archiving and archives, because how did you manage as an editor with all of this amount of archival material that is very different? Like every one of them has a very different effect, like the family footage, the archive from British Pate, for example, as well as like the footage of now, let's say. So did you have a special method when you worked with them, or how did you do it?
Did I have a special method? You know, it's editing. It's
No, because also something that I noticed very much is that the archive also ages. Like, for example, when you have the moment when you're talking about Hayam's childhood, the archive is very much like, I'm gonna say the 70s, but I'm so afraid of saying it wrong.
80s.
Okay, I wanted to actually say 80s, but I was too scared. So 80s kind of footage, but then when you're talking about Ali, you go for something that is earlier, and when you go to like Hosea, you can even tell that it's the refugee camps. So how did you manage with all of this type of footage with this type of story as well?
For me, it was like, sometimes because, for example, for Hosniye, that she's in Yarmouk, in Syria, there is no archival footage in Yarmouk. So it was very hard. And then we looked the era, and we looked for, and as soon as we saw the face of this woman that is in this camp, and it was the same epoch, same era. We just like, for us, she was amazingly beautiful, and she expresses so much. So we built Hosniye's story upon her face and her memory and what she. So if I may answer, it's about the power of image. This is how I say, okay, this is it. We need this. We are going to work with this. And so you have to watch and then decide which footage, which shot is the one that will say whatever you want to say.
Like for the people who maybe like we just saw the film, but if in case you missed it, like Hosnia's story was towards the end, and it was the woman who was baking or like doing some dough in the end, and she was exiled to Syria. So this is just for you to know.
Yes, okay. So I don't know if any one of the audience would like to ask a question or
please, anyone?
Say something.
We have a hand, and Layla's going for it.
kind of curious about how you managed to, like, in terms of choosing the footage, if how did you find a challenge, like managing with Lena and everything that's very sentimental and what needs to be told, but at the same time, how to respect the family's privacy, and like, did you find it a challenge to make that balance?
Yes, of course, but I mean, how do I say it? It's difficult. It's not difficult because there are some things for between me and Lena that we knew since the start. We were agreeing on how much, and I mean, the reality is, my fear was was more about Hiyam, the actress, and how to get to Hiyam, the person, and this was something that both of us with Lena were afraid of. But actually, Lena worked a lot on her mother, and until she got her to be the woman Hiyam and not the actress. And so there is an anecdote that Lena tells about the fact that one day she just said to her mother, I'm not a journalist. I am your daughter. I want to know things about you and to tell our story. And this is where Hiyam, I think, got something, and they and they started to have this exchange and all what happens. So yeah, sometimes we didn't choose some stuff because it was too intimate, and we didn't need it for the story. We don't want, we want this, I mean, I think this film to be universal. We are on the line. It's about Hiyam, but it's not really Hiyam. Hiyam is a character, but she's a woman, and it's always, you try always to be on the edge of things so that it doesn't go too far, but it's still personal. I don't know if I answered you.
Thank you very much. She said you did. Thank you very much. Any other questions? Please, like, raise your hand so they can see you. There is one here.
Hi, thank you.
Hi.
Well, I'm a poet and I do work with haiku poetry. So I know about a concept called the rhetorics of omission. It's kind of when you use what isn't there to imply what could be or whatever. But I did feel personally that I miss seeing more of Lena, knowing more of Lena. And I get that, she's the camera most of the time. And then she just kind of pops in like this little extra at times in scenes. But was there ever any thought or consideration of just providing more of her story, and whether that was an alternate version of the film? Thank you.
No, Lena didn't want to be in the film, and even, I mean, her voiceover came later because I felt that we needed her, like you are feeling. But the reality is that we needed her voice, her place, her relationship to this journey that she is making with her mother and and trying to find out. But in fact, she's looking for her place. So anyhow, for now she didn't, during the film, she didn't have her place, because this is what the film about is: where do I belong? If my mother brought me somewhere and bathed me into this place, I feel that I belong to this place, but then she left it. And where do I stand? What is this? Where do I belong to? And throughout all the journey, this is why we felt that it was more appropriate to have her voice leading than her being in the picture. And she comes at the end with the family once she found her place and her and her relationship to this territory, to this place. This is my answer why Lina is not in the film, because if she was, it would have been very easy to just be there. But the film is about how can she be there, and what is left of this place for her. How will she recognize herself within this place?
Thank you.
Is it something that speaks to you, or am I?
He's nodding his head. Slowly but surely. And we have another question in the back.
Yeah, it's just what she said about people, belonging to a place, a territory, and it's a universal struggle. This world that we live, where we are uprooted from our roots, and then we go to around the world and to find ourselves. Who are we in the new environment from where we were previously? And in this case, Palestine. It's a universal theme, I think. People moving around and finding their identity, where they belong, who are they, what's their role in life. So yeah, just what you said.
Yeah. And I think it also draws a parallel, because we read in an interview where the fact that Lina, for example, wasn't born in Palestine, but she was actually born in Paris, and there was no such uprooting, for example, for her to understand much. But in your case, for example, and in Hayam's case, the uprooting was kind of a decision that was made. And that's how she kind of learned from you and from her own mother to kind of build the story around that as well. So if you
yeah. Sorry, just to add something. I mean, the difference between, this is where it's, I tend, this is my try. Our trial is to make it universal. You're right. And I recognize myself in Hiyam, in Lina, in looking for, when you leave a place and you look for where you belong and your identity. But the issue with that space, with this place, with this territory, is that it's disappearing. And it is, how do you keep memory of this place that has already, the place did not disappear, but you cannot belong to it unless, now in the film, Lina belonged to it and the space belongs to her. But we see that this space has been invaded and that is no longer existing as the way it used to exist in 1940 and so on. So there is this as well, this reappropriation of a space that is totally in the heart. It's in the memory and it's in the imaginary. But it exists. The place exists.
Mm-hmm.
So you asked me about Hiyam. Sorry, Margot.
No, you commented on the thing that I wanted to talk about. So thank you. I have two more questions. So one in the back and one in the front.
Hi, I have one question. I would like to know more about the meaning of the symbol of water and of the lake in Palestinian culture. Because I noticed it was used in a certain way. It was associated with the femininity and motherhood and the relationship between mother and daughter as women. I was wondering if you could elaborate on that more. Thanks.
Sorry, I didn't hear everything. Can you just, Margaret?
I can also repeat it if you want.
Okay. So she was asking about the role of water and the lake in the film, about how it could be paralleling like motherhood and femininity, because the film she noticed that it was used in a very specific way, and if you can comment on that.
Yeah, sure. I agree personally. This is how I felt it. So I'm happy you feel it this way, and maybe everyone has its own feeling. But yeah, for me, I mean, when I saw this image of Lena and her mother bathing, it was really the beginning was found very quickly, and it's just being felt that Lena is being bathed in this water as a motherhood. I mean, how do you say, you know, when a child, I can't find the word in English,
Can say it
being in French, c'est
Arabic.
être baigné dans le liquide amniotique en fait de la mer. C'est it's
Ouais, non, peut-être c'était très poétique pour moi à traduire. Alors, I'm gonna ask the francophone aussi. What?
so it's being actually it's like a child being in his amniotic.
Like his embryo, like in the uterus, like in the embryo, like his
In the
embryo.
uterus, yes, and it felt for me like this, and it was in Tiberias Lake, and the image was totally
In the womb.
yes, and the comment dire yes, like you say, we didn't have to say anything; it was there. So this is the magic moment as well. These are magical moments that you find images and footage, and you just say, okay, how can I use them? And then you decide to write the story from there.
Mm-hmm. And another question from the phone?
Yeah. Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah. Yes, hi.
Hi. The movie is very much on the family, obviously, but it cannot not be a political movie for all the stories that it has. And so I'd like to know, how was the reaction afterward? If you had problem in traveling, the distribution of the movie was easy or not? If he received some anti-Palestinian hate, especially in the last year and a half, what's the story after the movie has been published?
Actually, so the film was made before what's happening in Gaza. And so we didn't, there's no connection whatsoever, but this is why you can see that the history has started before October. What's happening in Palestine and in Gaza, it started since the 40s, I mean 48. So we were telling, the story was told in the way Lena felt it, and in the way we could tell the story, and in this the most sincerely and the most authentic way. But then happens whatever happens in Gaza, and so actually it was a very good moment for the Palestinian and for all the people that were behind the Palestinian to have this film as a real expression about what they feel and about who they are and how they recognize themselves. So the film worked very well. It's all over the places. Sometimes some people don't want to hear or see whatever is happening, but it doesn't matter. I mean, we do exist. The other side of the political side or history side exists, and in big numbers. So the film has been traveling all over the places.
And it made it to Prague.
Sorry?
And it made it to Prague.
Exactly.
And there's one question in the end. Our last question.
Yes, Gladys, just wanted to thank you once again for coming and for participating. It's really an honor and it's a pleasure. I wanted to ask you, just to wrap up, a little bit more of a personal question, perhaps. I read in an interview actually with Lena about the production of the film, and your role and the role of Nadine in co-writing. And I think it's fascinating to think about her using you as a Lebanese and French exile, and also Nadine and her mother, of course, Hayam, to triangulate this experience of departure and disruption. And I wanted to know what this process was like for you. How did you worked with it, and Nadine, and also the parallels between your stories, and did you come away with a different sense of what solidarity is and how all of these stories intersect?
Sorry, I missed a part of the question, the last part.
Just asking if you came away with a different sense of solidarity and how all of these stories intersect and connect.
Yes, sure. You know, it's somewhere I do recognize myself in Hiam's story. So this is, I mean, yes, we all come together and we all share many stories, especially that Nadine and I, like Hiam, were born Nadine and I were born in Beirut, Hiam in Palestine, and Lina in Paris. And this is the painful part for Lina, to be born in Paris. She would have loved to be born in Palestine. So this is her trauma, and this is how for me, I thought we could build the film. Starting from there, it's yeah, we are connected already. We are. I mean, we knew each other even with Nadine before. I mean, I edit Nadine's film because Nadine is a director as well. So yeah, we speak the same language, let's say, and we connect. Our stories are all intertwined, like you said.
And sorry, because we have nepotism in the house, so we're gonna have another question from Leila.
I'm using my advantage. Hi, Gladys, Leila.
Hi.
I have one last question, a bit kind of, I want to talk a bit about the female presence in the film. You know, I know Lina, and I know that she's a big feminist, and I know also Rawiyat that she's part of, and I want you to talk a little bit about how this film talks about, you know, this generation of women, but also kind of knowing Lina, I know that maybe she wanted to work with a female team, you, Nadine, Frida, and maybe some other you know, members of the team that we don't know about. So can you maybe talk about that a bit?
I think she's not against working with men.
I don't think I didn't mean that, but I don't think it's something important for her.
But it came simply. In fact, it came simply. Let's say, because I don't want to say that it's only about women. I mean, the film is about a women's story, that's for sure. But the producer is a man. But the vision, I mean, the angle is really from a woman point of view. And we could have made it differently, but we are all women, and we see it in that way. I mean, that sense. But I don't know for men. This is the question: how do they recognize themselves in this story? It's a question to the audience. How do you feel about it?
And the audience can respond in sound. We hear you.
Sorry?
I asked them to respond. We can hear them, but there's just silence. It's your time. You're allowed to speak. Use it. Okay, they don't want to use it.
They don't want to use it. It's fine. But I mean, yes, I don't know if I answered you, but it was it's for sure. Lina, Nadine, and I, we have started the film together and like a team. And this is the beauty of how Lina works with others and try to find her film. Because this is what we all did, is how to find her journey and this film that tells her story and her women's family story. But yeah, I mean, this is the beauty of working all together. It's
Thank you. Is there anything else that you would like to add?
me?
Yes.
No, thank you all for staying, and I hope you enjoyed it, and I'm very happy to have participated in that discussion.
We are honored to have you here tonight. Thank you very much, Gladys.
Thanks. Ciao. Merci beaucoup.
Merci.
Bye. Bye.